recommendation and motion, Linda, was on the first one for bills. It was blank. Do you have a blank too? Mine's blank.
For the veterans?
Yes.
Veterans Advisory Committee?
Yes.
It says
My committee recommendation
blank?
blank on it.
No, it's
Yeah.
actually. Oh.
Yeah, committee
It's action.
recommendation is blank.
Yeah.
You could just
My
say,
bad.
Bill? Fill in the
you
blank.
move to accept the,
But it goes
Yeah.
in, but it's consent. Just remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Right. That's why I wanted to make sure what was on that one.
yeah,
I'm
policy
going
question.
to pull it off consent. So we might as well just think of it as,
Council business? Okay.
yeah.
Be great
Sounds good.
discussion.
Okay. Thank you.
No, it's consent for the next meeting, right? Council meeting.
Yes, but I'm going to pull it off consent to discuss it.
Hi, okay, we're live. We're ready to go.
Okay.
Thank
you.
you. Well, good evening. This is the council meeting for the Parks, Recreation, Human Services, and Public Safety Committee on January the 12th, 2021 at 5 p.m. And we're going to have to correct the agenda at the top. It is 2021. It's hard to remember that. Okay, we're moving on to, is there any public comment? Sarah or Mary, do you have any public comment?
There's no public comment.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll just say that we have Councilmember Greg Baruso and Councilmember Lydia Asefa Dawson are here as members of the committee. I see that we are joined by Council President Susan Honda, who are all laughing because Councilmember Landra Kraft has her cute little baby with her sitting on her lap. And so we have an honorary council member, Leandra's child. So thank you all for being here. And we'll move forward to our committee business, seeing that there's no public comment. And the first item on the business agenda is approval of the November 10th, 2020 minutes. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion for approval of November 10th, 2020 minutes.
Second.
Okay, is there a second? All right. It's been moved and seconded to approve the November 10th, 2020 minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, they've been approved unanimously. The second item on the agenda is the Veteran Advisory Committee proposal to honor veterans and families to be funded by the King County Veterans Program grants. And we are joined by Bill Vadino, who's going to give us a presentation.
And here comes the presentation. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, here we go. We're going to share this. Chair and Representative Kochmar, Council President, and members of the Council, here is my presentation. And basically what we're going to talk about is the policy question for you to consider. Should the City of Federal Way approve the Veteran Advisory Committee's proposal to place the flagpole, service medallions, plaque, and lighting be located at the top of the Town Center steps adjacent to the Performing Arts and Events Center? And this would be proposed by two King County Veterans Programs grants, $10,000 and $9,999, that were facilitated by King County Council member Pete Von Reitbauer. And the Veterans Advisory Committee, so you know who they are, they were formed by Mayor Farrell in 2018 to recommend the appropriate way to honor our veterans and families. And here are the members. And of course, it includes from the very beginning, Council President Susan Honda, Dan Altmaier's been there, Frank Bannister, Bob Selsky has rejoined, Roger Flygar, Jack Garfield, who's an Eagle Scout, Gene Hunt, Bob Kellogg, Diana Noble-Gilliford has come in, Keith Selthofer, Laurie Steinhurst, and Dick Whipple. And this is sort of the core group that have been there from the beginning. And so when the group got together, I was privileged to work with them, and they spent a lot of time. And of course, Council President Honda can give us some color commentary too as we go through this, extensively studying tributes and memorials for veterans in our area. And what happened was a whole bunch of them were nominated regionally and internationally. One meeting went through just all these great sites and how they would, be contemplative, work with families, and honor veterans. They then took the features and the elements that they liked and took it out on the road to the Federal Way Farmers Market, Flavor of Federal Way. I believe, Susan, we were at the November 11th presentation at one of the high schools, and basically we took this on the road to get their feedback. That's my daughter helping out there, and then we started to get results. Now, oh shoot, I can't really see. Okay, my little screen here is blocking it, but you can see that it was broken down by what kind of atmosphere do we want, and you can see the voting. What should the monument or the tribute feature? And we would total those up to come up with a consensus. We would talk about location, different locations that were available. And then, of course, other features like lighting, fountain water. And so we were starting to get together, trying to figure out what to do. And you can see the ones that were at the top of the list. And parallel to that, and then right before COVID occurred, there was a discussion, should we have our own 501c3 to raise money? Should we work with other organizations like the Historic Center or the Kiwanis, et cetera, and then we got to COVID, and that's about the time that the first 10,000 grant, surfaced, and then in the fall another 9,999 was also given to the project. So in mid-December, the person who helped facilitate that, Councilmember Von Reitbauer, he got together a group of veterans. You can see there's the state VFW chairs there, the local one, Roger Flygar, and other veterans, including some people on the committee. And he just did his, here's the quote unquote check for the 9,999. And Councilmember Van Reitbauer, he took an impromptu and unofficial poll, just saying, well, why don't we just get started here? Let's do a flag poll. What do you think about a plaque and lights and service medallions? And the group was in favor of the idea. Now, the mayor, being in attendance, he said, well, we need to talk to our official Veterans Advisory Group and get their input. So that came to pass the next week later. And that's basically our core group there that was there, including our Eagle Scout was there too as well. And so because of the timing and the short window for getting, accepting the money officially and having a purpose, this was discussed, and basically, the mayor convened the group. And during this, the group was updated. There was another proposal, and you can see there's this sort of like conceptual drawing. At first, it was like, well, maybe on that southeast corner of the park. And Parks Department took a look at that and put together a document. And there were, unfortunately, significant drainage and infrastructure issues that would just, put that out of reach from a cost for that location. So after discussion, the group, unanimously recommended to council to move forward with the flagpole at the center steps, utilizing the grant funding, medallions, a marker for each service at the base of the flagpole, a 30 to 35 foot in height. But the advisory group was very, very clear that this is just the beginning of a veterans memorial. It doesn't reflect the final project, but would be a definitive start. We have had many, many organizations that have worked to fulfill the community's desire for recognizing veterans since even before we were a city. We're talking about the gardens that the Historic Society was working on. Judge Larson had some great ideas. There's been a lot of community work and hope and dreams for doing something like this. But the group was pretty clear this would only be a beginning. And then we need to continue to work on what was, I think, trending to be almost a $500,000 project if to do something that's, full-fledged. So here we are today to look at the spending of this on that. And of course, this recommendation, if accepted, of course, would be then looked at and coordinated full expertise and fiduciary powers and creativity of our Parks, Recreation, and Culture Services Department. So specifically, one more time, flagpole, service medallions, plaque, lighting at the top of the town center steps, somewhere in that picture, depending on what could be done. If it's in earth, we could probably bring it under the the $20,000 that was secured by Councilmember Von Reinbauer. So the options are approve forwarding to council, option 2, disapprove forwarding to the council, and the mayor recommends forward to council. And now time for questions and discussion.
All right, council committee, are there any questions? Does anybody have their hand up?
I do have a question. I'm sorry.
Okay, Lydia, Councilmember Lydia Seppa-Dawson, go ahead.
Yeah. So are we looking for Veterans Day 2021? Is that what they're working towards?
Oh, we're talking November?
Yeah, of 2021.
I think and John's here somewhere too. I think and is he here? I'd say a flagpole and what's being envisioned for this very beginning phase would be quite doable in 10 months.
Right.
What do you think, John?
It's certainly possible. Yeah, we got to go out and do some. Bill and I had a conversation today earlier and decide on exactly where it's needs to be sited. As Bill mentioned, doing it in the earth would be probably the smarter plan, and by doing it then doing it there rather than cutting the new concrete would probably be the smarter move, as Bill mentioned. I agree 100%. I would think by November is possible.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I see that Deputy President Honda has her hand up.
Thank you. I wanted to give some more history on the Veterans Memorial and what citizens have done over the years. So the Historical Society of Federal Way and the Federal Way Kiwanis Club for many years had worked on getting a memorial for veterans. The location at one time was going to be where the new Truman High School was being built. We were promised some land there. That fell through, and then we were promised land over at Federal Way High School, and that didn't happen either because they needed all of the land for the school. There were plans drawn up that are quite extensive because the citizen committee wanted a memorial where you could come, you could sit, you could reflect, and it would be very meaningful for all branches of the military. So when the Veterans Committee was formed a couple of years ago, it was mostly veterans. I think I was the only non-veteran on the committee. And during the course of our meetings, we have had several guests come and visit us. One was Pete Lewis, Mayor Pete Lewis from Auburn. And he has been successful in getting 2 veterans memorials in Auburn. One is for veterans, and one is for Vietnam, a Vietnam memorial. He had a lot of suggestions for us, and one of his suggestions was that we actually had a drawing that we could go out and ask the community to help fund this, because this will be very expensive. The city does not have any funding for this, and we know that we will need to go out to the community for assistance in building this. So he also suggested that we have more citizens who were not veterans, because veterans have a hard time asking for stuff, and families can ask for support for this much easier than veterans can. So then we had a one-day retreat on a Saturday, and then COVID hit, and we were going to use the initial money that King County Council member gave us to have some drawings done. COVID hit, we were not able to meet. And I would say that I am concerned that we may not be moving forward as fast as we should be moving forward with this Veterans Memorial once the flagpole is installed. And we will have to now find some money or get a donation of some an artist who could build us what we're talking about in the way of a memorial. One of the things I am concerned about that the committee, when we were voting on putting the flagpole at the PAC, was there was discussion that the veterans would be able to use the PAC. And I did state that the PAC is not controlled by the City of Federal Way. We have a contractor who runs it. Restrooms are not open to the public. So if veterans or visitors are at the flag to look at it, most likely they would not be able to go into the PAC and use the restroom. And I wanted to make sure that the committee understood that. I hope you all know that in Federal Way, we have a very robust Veterans Day program that the Historical Society of Federal Way, the Federal Way Kiwanis Club, the Soroptimist Club, and the Junior ROTC programs at Todd Beamer and at Federal Way High School put on. We have put it on at Beamer for many years because the school made that space available to us. We did try to have that program at the PAC when the PAC first opened, and we were not able to afford to use the PAC. One of the issues was the cadets march in the Veterans Parade in Auburn, which is the largest Veterans Day parade this side of the Mississippi. And we feed them when they come back from the parade before the program, and we could not bring in donated food to the PAC. We have to use the PAC's food, so we could not afford that. There was talk that the veterans would be able to use the PAC also for programming, and I certainly hope that's true, but I did talk about the cost, that it would not be for free, and that it does have a cost to it. So it's been a long time that this community has wanted a memorial for veterans. As Bill said, this is a start, it's not a stop. And I'd like to see more citizens get involved in this committee because we need more people involved who are able to move forward with this. One day, we will have a very large Veterans Memorial in Federal Way. I don't know where it's going to be. The locations that we had been looking at might not be suitable for a Veterans Memorial if there's no room in the parks. But there is room somewhere in Federal Way for a beautiful Veterans Memorial where veterans and their families can come and can sit and can reflect. And for a city our size, this flagpole is a start, it's not a stop. And I would like to thank Bill for all the work he's done on this because he has done an extensive amount of work in supporting this committee.
Thank you.
Thank you, So President, are you okay with moving this forward to, did you want to move it forward to business or to consent?
I would like to move it to business. I think that the community deserves to know what's going on, especially with all the people who've worked on it in the past.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Baruso.
Yes, thank you, Chair Korchmar. Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Council President Honda, for the history. So I know this is a start, but do you have any other? Can you give us an idea what the other ideas, other than the flagpole, what else were we talking about? A wall or some type of other? What was the other ideas in memorial that you folks know of?
Oh,
Well, yeah,
sorry.
The council president can join in because she and I were very much shoulder to shoulder on this. It would need to be, accessible, and then there would be areas to sit and contemplation. Of course, the medallions would be there. There were ideas of having families recognize their veterans with plaques, historical displays. And when you look at that picture, and we'll look at what we'll do is we'll share some more pictures when we go to council. There were just places where it was spaced out, and the other service flags were envisioned by some folks. but there just be places for people to privately or be separated to sort of contemplate and sit and just think back. And so yeah, we've got some. I can pull up some more of the other ones that people were looking at from around the world. But basically, it wouldn't be just a stop. It would be just a place to spend time and think and also teach. So
we wanted it to be covered because of our weather.
Yes, a covered
here,
area too.
And we wanted it to be have significant parking, especially handicap parking, and more flat than hilly because we wanted it accessible to all. We want it lit, and we do want it large enough where programs could be offered there. So Federal Way has their own VFW post as well as Auburn, and Roger Flygar is in Auburn. Commander Whipple is here in Federal Way, and we are getting them involved as well. I think if you go around to cities like Milton, they have a beautiful Veterans Memorial. If you haven't been there, it's beautiful. It took a lot of years to build that and to get the money for that. And their veterans group maintains it. Their post is right across from the park where it's located at. So I know that Federal Way one day will have something like that or even larger. But this is a start.
Okay, thank you.
If I could interject, I'll be glad to share in the council presentation a lot of what the council president and I were talking about, so you can visualize it.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
And blow up the survey results too, so you can see those.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Sepa Dawson, did you have your hand up?
I did, thank you. I think maybe 3 years ago or so, when this conversation was going on, I remember asking the mayor to have some kind of a water feature also, and I know could raise the cost, but I think it would be great to have something like that as part of the space. So just a suggestion that I would like to make.
Thank you. It's a good idea.
Could I answer that?
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
We have talked about a water feature. Being the past chair of the Arts Commission, I don't support water features because of the cost of maintenance to them, and they're really hard to maintain. They're really hard to keep going. But if it worked into the budget and it worked into the ability that someone is able to maintain a water feature, that's great. I know that if you ever go down to Dumas Bay, you'll see there's a fountain right outside the front door, and it's a natural stone. That stone is broken. It's cracked all the way through. And back when I was on the Arts Commission, we had to repair it, and we had to glue pretty sure we used glue to try to get the stone to stay together and not fall apart. Because once it falls apart, because it's a natural stone, the whole thing has to be replaced. So water features are beautiful. They're just really, really hard to maintain, but they are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I think
Thank you.
if you could make that as part of the conversation anyway, and then drop it at some point when we know it's not going to work. So at least considering it would be great. So thank you so much.
It's still on the wish list.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you all very much. So, Councilmember, Brewster, do you have a motion to move this forward?
Sure do. So I'll just try to wing it here, but I moved forward a proposal proposed by the Veterans Advisory Committee to the January 19, 2021 consent agenda for approval. That's correct.
Could we
Business.
Excuse me,
Or business, sorry. Excuse me.
is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Well, the motion is to move this item forward to the council business agenda for the next council meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you all very, very much. So now we're moving on to the next item on the agenda, item C, which is landscape structure retainage release. And we have a presentation by Jason Gerwin.
Yes, thank you, Chair Kochmar. Thank you, council members. Appreciate it. I have the next two agenda items actually. And so the first one, this one is the policy question before you tonight is, should the city accept the installation of the playground equipment at Mirror Lake Park by Landscape Structures as complete and authorized staff to release retainage? I don't know if you've seen it, but that was a fall project for us, and we replaced the Mirror Lake playground. We were not able to open it up when we finished due to COVID and that, but since we have reopened our playgrounds to staff, so it's open and available for the community to use. And about a month ago, I needed a Saturday to get my kids out of the house, and we came up there and was pleasantly surprised to see 3 other families there. But we all took turns and utilized different pieces of the equipment and all that. And so I believe it's been a great asset to the community and served that park well, and is going to serve the community well for a long time. And so this is just busy, cleaning house. And so we withhold some money from Landscape Structures to make sure they perform as they're supposed to, and they have done that. And it's just time to release that money so that they can be paid in full.
Thank you, Council. Any questions? Jason, can you tell us what items are there? What kind of structural items?
Absolutely. We had we had expanded the original footprint. There used to be just a timber wood form structure, and so we replaced that timber structure with a metal composite structure, fitting it into the old footprint. Additionally, we added a 2-bay swing set. One of the bays has adult belt swings. The other one has one child tot swing and a new what they're calling inclusion swing seat. And the swing seat allows the adult to sit in there and put your tot in right across from you. So when you're swinging together, can see each other's interactions and all that. And it's really been a positive, and we hope to get more of those swings in parks. But from what I've heard in the community also, particularly with autistic children, it comes into play and utilize and then being able to see their parents' face, but yet get the thrill of the to and fro, which sometimes can be frightening to them. So as always, we exceed the IPEMA standards for ADA components, and we also did touch up and did rockery. What we found, kind of like at Town Square Park where we have the rocks and the sitting, we made the whole border of that playground out of rocks, and it's actually become an additional feature because the kids like to walk on the rocks as much as they like to race on the zip line. And so it's kind of going to become our new standard, and it just fits well into the park. Definitely expanded the playground equipment there, but it was kind of an underutilized park, and so I think that's starting to attract more people, and especially when school gets back in session to students, there's a lot of people that pass through that park to walk to Mirror Lake Elementary. And so I think when we kind of get out of this COVID swoop, that it's going to be a super popular destination. But then that creates another problem for us because there is limited parking in that area. But that's a neighborhood park and to serve that area, but people are driving to it too.
Okay. Council President Honda.
Thank you. I went to look at it today, and cool. It is really cool. Although I would say that the grassy area holds a lot of water. It was full of water. I was wondering what that swing was, because I was wondering if 2 people could be on it at the same time. And now that I know what the concept is, I think that's really amazing. I have 2 questions. One is, where's the parking for that? Because I found I parked in where it said no parking. And is there a stream over there on the side the entrance closer to Mirror Lake Elementary? Is there a stream in the woods there?
So it was two questions. I think I've already misplaced your first one, but let's talk about the stream first because it's at top of mind. And so about 15 years ago, that park was really overrun by blackberries, and we were getting security concerns. People didn't even want to walk into the park because you couldn't see where you were going because it was just little aisles through the blackberries. And so through some AmeriCorps projects and volunteer projects, we've gotten that open space and grass developed. That is a historically wet area. And so there's a pathway that kind of divides the park. It's about, I'd say, 20% on this side of the path, and then 80% of the park is on the other side of the path, which is the side that the playground and the wet area is in. The area is undeveloped. That 20% is undeveloped because it is wet area. It does not have a wetlands classification, but it serves that area, and it went in. It holds water. Okay. We've wanted to firm up that grass area. And so we have had two internal projects that weren't big projects. We just used operations money, and we have gone in there and trenched. We actually have pipe, and we have probably 4 18-inch yard drains in there that help move some of the water. I noticed I was out there about 2 weeks ago, and it used to be fairly firm in the winter. Now, right now, the amount of water we've had in this area, getting 1.5 inches a day on multiple days over the past couple of weeks is a contributing factor, Susan. And okay. I think our ability to completely dry that out and make it firm walking ground is going to be difficult, and not something that we could just absorb out of the operations. We continue to monitor. I need to put in a work order and just make sure that those are flowing. But it's going to be a little bit wet there unless we did some sort of major improvement and did a more formal drainage system rather than a kind of an ad hoc trying to solve the problem that way. And that's why the pathway you kind of walk over, and when you can walk to it without having to cross the grass and get your feet wet. But it's kind of the characteristics of the park, and in the big scheme of things, that's one of the minor problems we have compared to some other places. Additionally, it's a neighborhood park and is intended to serve that localized community. So that was your first question, was the parking. And yeah. It's a balance, Susan, and it's a little, I don't necessarily have a good answer. It's surface street parking is really what's available. There is the street end along 10th Avenue, but along 8th Avenue on that other side, the two neighbors, they get blocked into their house regularly by people parking and blocking their driveways and kind of just being rude and inconsiderate. And so, yeah. That was a combined effort between the Parks Department, Public Works Department, and Police Department to get that signage in there, and it was directly to work with those two neighbors. The street inside, you see cars there frequently, and you can get one, 2, or 3 cars parked there, just depending on how generous people are or how tight of a threshold they pull in there with. But parking is limited, and I don't have a solution for that. Nor do I necessarily think that we need a solution, because again, it was intended to be a neighborhood park, and the reason that park was selected by the Parks Commission is because it was most adjacent to our most recent multifamily housing in Uptown Square, and so it's within a 10-minute walk of that. And so, we were thinking about that local community as well as the multi-housing family. Now, you're going to get people that drive there. You're going to get people that disobey the parking laws, but we deal with those in other on other manners.
Okay. Well, it's beautiful. You guys did a good job. But the reason I asked if there's a stream, so on the 8th Avenue side is where I parked.
Okay.
And on the side of where the undeveloped area is, there was what looked to me to be a stream, and it was not, the water wasn't just sitting, it was rippling and rushing. It was actually very, very interesting looking, because the water was just sitting on the grass and in other areas of the undeveloped area. But this was actually, it looked like a stream. So I was just wondering if there was a stream there, that's all.
It's kind of in the hydrology world, it's just a rivulet that's created. Water will erode where it goes, and so it's created that path. And if you walk back into that kind of undeveloped area, oh yeah, you're going to be almost calf deep in water in some places, and that's where, I don't think it has the official wetlands designation, but that's why we leave that natural, because we're trying to have 80% of the park usable and kind of shift that water over to that side, but yet it's a balance and not easy to maintain.
The other
Well,
piece that
you
may
did a good job. Yeah.
Sorry, Susan.
Sorry.
The other piece that may be in play here, as you both have pointed out, it's absolutely a wet site on a regular time. But we had 2.5 inches of rain in the last 24 hours, so it's probably. And if you visited the day, that's probably the wettest day it's been all year, and probably will be all year with that kind of. I mean, we had urban flooding going on everywhere, so it's probably a little bit of that, even though it is a wet spot.
Well, I think it looks very pretty. It appears to be more opened up, so it appears to be safer to me than it was before. And I know that was a concern of the neighbors there, so good job.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Council President Honda, hands down.
Oh, yep. I will do that.
I don't need anything for a Diet Coke. We'll save that for Jim. Hey, so thank you. Councilmember Baruso, do you have a motion?
Yes, I do, Chair Kochmar. I move to forward the acceptance of the landscape structures installation of the playground equipment at Mirror Lake Park as complete, and forward the authorization of staff to release their $4,560.73 retainage to January 19, 2021 City Council consent agenda for approval.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much.
All right.
Let's see. Yes.
I'm on tap for the next one, Linda.
You go ahead about electrical. Thank you.
Right, yeah, and this one is not going to be near as exciting as playgrounds. Policy question I have before you next is, should the City Council amend the contract by adding compensation and extending the term with JGM Technical Services for on-call electrical services, and authorize the mayor to execute said contract? And so if you refer to the memo, this is really just housekeeping item. We expended all of our money, and the term had expired with our electrical contractor. We had bid the last time, which gave us the ability to enter into another 3-year contract and add compensation. Not only does the Parks Department utilize the electrical contract, but Public Works, Community Development, other departments kind of piggyback that when they need work done. And that's why you kind of see the dollar amount. We add compensation for that. I don't have that kind of compensation in my annual budget to do that, but I know I can't expend more than you all have approved for me to spend out of the operations budget. But we pad money in there because we want to have it in the contract when we need electrical services, that we can do them, right away, and we don't have to bid or execute a contract and wait for that work to be done.
Mm-hmm. I see that Councilmember Issaquah Dawson has a question.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Council Chair. My question is, so this money's from 2017, right? From the general funds?
No. This money is coming from the 21-22 annual operating budget.
I knew. Okay, so that's where I wanted clarity. So once that is expended, it's all used up, right? So it's the on-call, is that an ongoing? I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, so this is an ongoing contract. And so essentially in our operations account, we have 3 different line items that have what's considered 480 or repair and maintenance money. And that's where that's our general fund allocation to use contracted services to assist city staff in maintenance. And so here at City Hall, if we have a new office and need an outlet plugged in, or you have, like copper wire theft repairs when we have those out in the parks, or, picnic site needs a new outlet because it got vandalized or damaged. It's anything electrical. JGM Technical Services can do low voltage, high voltage, and we just need to have, when we need an electrician, we need an electrician now. And so this contract is in place so that when we need an electrician, we don't have to go through the whole council process. We've already got our electrician. We call them up and order the work. As I said, you know, the contract may show more money than is allocated in the 21-22 budget, but I have a responsibility. I like my job and want to keep it, and so I will not overexpend those. And that's where, because swim department or public works department, you know, they have a little equipment trailer and they needed some overhead lights in there for their storage so they could see in there and getting. They call me. I order the work with the electrician, but I use Public Works account code to pay for those services. And so, yeah, it's something that we've had in place for over 15 years. We just have an on-call electrician, and yeah. Did that answer the question?
So they bill us when it's
yeah,
when they provide a service.
They're a time and materials contract.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much.
We have Councilmember Kraft.
So the amendment would just be extending the contract then to 2023.
It extends the term for, I believe, 3 years, if that's right, which would take it till 2024, and it gives us an annual amount of compensation. I can tell you that JGM is a smaller company, and we are getting electrician rates at about $75 an hour. If you call most electrical places, you're going to be double or more that rate. So as far as our bid process has done us well, and we have secured a great hourly rate. And then on materials, he's permitted a 10% markup on materials. A lot of times we will purchase the materials in advance and hand them off to the electrician when we have these projects that we know what we're doing and have specifics we want. That way we save that 10%, but there are many times where we just have to tell him to go do something, and he'll procure the materials.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Are there hands down, Ms. Kraft? Thank you. Okay, are there any other questions, Council? Seeing none, I have a quick one, and Jason, we like you too. Can you tell me, are they based, where are they based? What city are they out of?
They are local here in Federal Way.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah,
Good.
it's anytime we can get a local person or a local business under contract, it's a win-win for everybody.
Perfect. Thank you so much for doing that.
You're welcome.
Do I hear a motion?
Chair Kochmar, I make a motion. I move the fourth proposed amendment to the January 19th, 2021 consent agenda for approval.
Second.
Thank you, Councilmember Listeva Dawson. It's been moved and seconded to move the proposed amendment to the next council meeting consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much,
Thank
Jason.
you.
Does that mean you get to go home?
Woohoo! Yep.
Okay. All right.
Take care.
Well, thank you. You too. Okay, moving on to item
We're already
E.
home, Chair Kochmar.
I know. Oh, that's right. Jason may already be home. Sorry, you have such a nice park in the background there. Thank you. Item E, lease agreement between Valley Road, I hope that's Valley Road LLC and the City of Fedway for downtown substation. Officer Bunk, are you going to be, Ray, you're going to be presenting this? It sounds like, is it Valley Road, is Patrick Rhodes is involved with that, right?
I don't deal with him directly, ma'am. I deal with another person. So
okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, but he is the one who's going to sign the overall lease. He's on the signature page of the
thank you.
agreement itself. So this is I'm not sure if it's Bally or Bali, but Bali Road LLC. It's our downtown substation that we've been utilizing since 2015. Currently, and it's for the foreseeable future, we're going to have our traffic division there, as well as our special operations unit, so that they can respond to the downtown core and whatnot. Other officers utilize that space for bathroom facilities, as well as lunch breaks, and there's a bunch of computers there so that we can do our work out in the field and not have to return all the way back to the station. Again, we've been there since 2015. Price has gone up and down over that time period. And for this next 2 years, 21 and 22, it'll be $3,000 a month, which is the exact same that we've been paying for the prior 2 years.
Council, are there any questions? Council President? Seeing none, do I hear?
No, I don't.
You always have a question. That's okay. Maybe our honorary council member looks like they've disappeared. Hi. What's your baby's name?
Her name's Amaya. She's
Amaya.
Yeah, she's being very much wanting to stay with mom.
Of course. Very, very sweet. Thank you very much. Well, Council, do I hear a motion?
Chair Korchmar, I have the motion.
Okay.
I move to forward the MOU between Bali LLC and the City of Federal Way to January 19, 2021 consent agenda for approval.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Brusso, seconded by Councilmember Sefa Dawson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much, Officer Bunk. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too. Now we're moving on to item F, which is the Humane Society for Tacoma and Pierce County Agreement for Shelter and Related Services. And Casey has this one.
Casey Jones. I'm from the police department. I'll give you guys the details on this Humane Society. Actually, I have 3 agreements to go over tonight. The first one's Humane Society, and all 3 of my agreements are not new ones. They are ones that we currently have had in place and are using. The first one, the Humane Society. It's where we when we find a dog or when a citizen finds a dog and calls us, this is where we take them so that they can get reunited with their family. The Humane Society has, their social media pages and all kinds of ways to try to reunite lost pets with their owners. They are also the ones who take strays that get found and don't have owners, and they work on getting those animals into their forever homes. So we've had a lot of luck with them in the past, and we'd like to continue using them. The costs were a consideration this time around over the years. As you may know, the cost has increased to the city. That the Humane Society keeps putting charging a little bit more. So we did look at some other places this time around, and ultimately, while there are good places around, we would like to stick with the Humane Society. I also want to point out, and I know this has been asked at prior committee meetings when I presented before, they have not changed their policies. They are still a no-kill facility with an asterisk. That asterisk means that there's maybe 1 or 2 cases each year where we end up taking on a dangerous dog that fits with their current policy and with case law where we have to, euthanasia is mandated for us. So that's the little asterisk. They're no kill, but with that little asterisk. And that's all I think I can tell you about that. It's basically, it's not a renewal because we had to type it up again, but it's essentially a renewal.
Okay, thank you, Officer Jones. Council member, are there any questions? I see Council President Honda.
Thank you. Well, thank you for talking about the no-kill, because I was going to ask that again. I'm sure I'm the one who asks that all the time. So my question is, on Facebook or neighbor next door, whatever that's called, every day there's a lost animal, and someone finds an animal. That it's recommended that they call the Federal Way Police Department. Sometimes they don't get anyone, because the animal services unit is not working 24 hours a day. So is it recommended that when people find an animal and they cannot contact animal services, that they take the animal to the Humane Society if they're not able to keep it themselves?
Actually, they have the option of having a police officer fill in while there's not an animal control officer on duty. That is, one of our patrol officers could respond to a person's house and take the dog and put it into our temporary kennels that we have at the police department until the next day or whatever, until an animal services officer can get it.
Can that officer check to see if the animal has a tag inside to see if they're who their owner is?
Yeah, that's usually the first step for the patrol officers too.
Okay.
In fact, there's one of those scanners next to our kennels.
Okay.
But another point to your question is, yes, a resident could take a found animal down to the Humane Society. Sometimes we don't know. We might not recommend that because I'm not sure how friendly the animal is. I mean, most of them are usually friendly, but what if it's one that all of a sudden he jumps in the car and decides to be mean or whatever? So we kind of recommend against it, but I'm sure a person could get a good feel for an animal when they're dealing with it.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate knowing the correct answer. Thank you.
Okay, Council, are there any other questions? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Chair Korchmar, I have a motion. I move to forward proposed Humane Society agreement to January 19th, 2021 consent agenda for approval.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to move this agreement forward to the next council agenda, consent agenda for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you so much. So Casey, you've got the next two.
What's the next one you have? Is it the mall one?
Yes, it's police services agreement with Commons Mall.
The Commons Mall. Yes, that is also, we've been with them since, I think, our first year as a police department. We have provided services to the entire Commons Mall. Early on, we realized our officers are over there a lot, and we talked with the management there, and ultimately we ended up having 2 or 3 cops there since 1996. What it does is it helps keep regular patrol officers handling the areas in their cars and handling calls, and the specific mall officers handle calls at the mall. So it kind of frees up other officers to go out and handle the other calls. I want to point out that early on, we ended up spending a bunch of time at the big box stores, whether it was Sears or Macy's. And over the years, our relationship has kind of changed a little bit, because it's not just the big box stores that need officers there. In fact, all the little stores also, with their, paying their rent or paying whatever kind of fees they have, we don't want them to feel neglected. We are there for them as well. So I know that our officers spend a lot of time on foot, meeting with the people who have shops there, in the littler shops and the bigger ones too.
All right, thank you. Council, Council Member President Honda, I see your hand is up.
Thank you. So I have 2 questions. One, a few years ago, we actually had a substation at the mall, and then my understanding was that the space wasn't available, and so that went away. There's a lot of space at the mall now, unfortunately. Is that possible to get that there again, or is there a desire to have it again at the mall?
We currently have some office space there, but we don't have a storefront. In the office space, we have these little fingerprint scanners, and the officers are able to type their reports and use the restroom or have lunch or whatever. But we don't have a storefront, and as far as I know, there hasn't been any conversations with the mall management about it.
Okay. And then my second question is, when I was reading the contract, it very clearly said that experienced police officers would be assigned to the Commons Mall. I haven't seen that in other contracts. So what does an experienced police officer mean? Because I would think that all of our officers have the experience to be a police officer.
You're right. That is actually language that comes from our policy manual, because the mall position, much like a school resource officer position or detective position, officers per our policy need to have 2 years experience before they put in for a coveted position like that.
Okay.
Like those specialty positions.
Okay. good to know. I was wondering if that was our language or the mall's language. So
No, that comes from our police department's actual policy, the accreditation recommendations.
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Dawson.
Thank you, Chair. And my question is, the dollar amount seems so specific. Does it pay salaries, or what does it cover? And then the other question I have is, in the contract, it talks about termination of your contract. It could be at any time. So would that impact the officers that are assigned to the mall? And my third question is, with the mall being so slow currently, does that contract still hold the dollar amount at least? So.
Yes. Regarding the specific salary, we base that on the officers who are over there, and we plan to be over there for the next couple of years. That is actually 1/2 of their salary that the mall pays for each of the 3 officers who are currently assigned there. That's why it's a specific number. And I believe there's also a little bit of increase. I believe one of the officers gets, he might be due his step increase for next year. So that's why there's only a slight difference between 2021 and 2022. Regarding the termination clause that's in the contract, that is, Dell may be able to answer this more clearly, but I believe that's the standard contract language, the standard PSA language. Dell?
Yeah, it's pretty typical in most oh, am I back? All right. I seem to have had internet issue. It's standard language in most of our contracts to have a 30-day termination clause, and that's to protect the rights of both parties. Generally, it's to protect the city, because if we end up with a vendor who's not doing what they're supposed to, or their insurance certificate expires or something like that, we want to be able to get out of the contract rather than having to litigate it or let the entire contract run its course.
Yeah, so how does that affect the officer who are assigned there if the contract is terminated?
I can answer that. We had an example of that last year during slowdown due to COVID, and the mall actually, I believe weren't they closed for a while while they were figuring things out. So we merely redeployed those officers to the street. We stopped billing the mall for them, and we took the officers onto the streets.
Thank you. Thank you, Commander Jones. Council, are there any other questions? Seeing none, do I hear a motion?
Chair Kuchma, I move to forward the proposed Commons Mall Agreement to January 19th, 2021 consent agenda for approval.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to move the agreement to the next council meeting consent agenda for approval. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Commander. You have one more item, which is the ATS Vera Mobility Traffic Safety Cameras.
Yes, those are the cameras that do the tickets, that send tickets to the police department, and officers look at them and watch the video and say, yes, it looks like a traffic violation was committed on that, and then a ticket gets sent to the violator. That's what those are.
Councilor, are there any questions?
Oh, I do, if no one else does.
Council President.
So in looking at the history of collisions that was presented to us, I can see that collisions from 2005 to 2019 have certainly decreased or most have decreased. But I'm wondering in 2019, there was a slight increase on Enchanted Parkway and a large increase at Pack Highway and 320th. Do you know the circumstances of that and why that would happen?
I did notice that. It's like for years, the collisions have gone down based on, what looks like the red light cameras, traffic cameras being up out there. And then it was 2019, I believe they edged up in 2 places. And I was like, whoa, is that some kind of an anomaly, or I don't know. It is inconsistent with the other years we've had, I noticed. So I don't know what the anomaly was.
Okay. Do you know, in 2020, with less people on the streets, did we see less tickets there? Less?
That hasn't been compiled yet.
Okay.
That's coming.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Commander. Do I hear a motion?
Yes, Chair Korchmar, I have a motion. I move for the proposed agreement to the January 19th, 2021 consent agenda for approval.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Russo. It's been motioned by Councilmember Russo, seconded by Councilmember Sefa to move the agreement to the next consent agenda for approval. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. Thank you so much, Commander.
All right. Have a good evening.
You too. Oh, now we're going on to the next item on the agenda, which is item I, well, 2 of them, which are jail services contract. The first one is for the King County Jail. And Officer Schwan.
Good evening, Council President Hanna and council members. And as I did promise back in December, I am back once again with 2 more jail contracts for you. The first, as you stated, was with the King County Jail. The policy question here is, should the Federal Way Police Department continue to use the King County Jail as a contract jail facility? Obviously, you have the staff report in front of you. It talks a little bit about what we're trying to accomplish. The last contract we had with King County was about 12 years long. They did really long contracts at the time. We extended it out. They have now terminated all their contracts with everybody other than Seattle and are entering into smaller contracts with their contract cities. So obviously, as we've discussed, there are different needs and different issues that we utilize different jails for. Some of our smaller jail contracts are really good just for housing people at a little bit lower rate. But King County Jail and Score Jail are the 2 jails that provide us a wide array of resources to be able to book different types of people. So if there are mental health needs or if there are extra medical needs, we would take people to Score Jail and to King County Jail. Obviously, King County Jail would be last because they do not have a guaranteed bed rate for us. It's all the same price no matter what, and they are more expensive than any of the other jails we have. So they are a safety net for us where we would utilize them only in emergency situations and when an inmate of ours needs certain resources that we're unable to get them elsewhere.
Thank you, Commander Schwan. Council, are there any questions? Council President Honda.
Thank you. I have a question about the medical care and mental health care at King County.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that one of the good reasons that we use SCORE is their medical care. Does King County have better medical care? So you would take a patient that needed more extensive care to King County, or would you take them to SCORE if you could?
If I could, I would always choose SCORE first. Number one, they're closer and we are a contract city with them. However, we may not have available beds at SCORE, and SCORE is limiting the number of medical beds available to them because of COVID. They're trying to keep their inmates separate, so we may be forced to utilize the King County Jail. The medical services that they have are very similar. I do not know if they actually use the same company, but they are very similar. They all have different rates for the beds as well. And you can find that towards the end of the contract in the bed rates. They do have mental health rates as compared to medical rates as compared to regular booking rates.
This is Del. I'll just interject real quick. I used to work with the jail quite a bit, so I actually have some insight there. The day-to-day medical service is provided by the Jail Health Service, which is part of the Department of Public Health. But if they have something they can't handle, they'll send somebody up to Harborview under guard, and they have a contract with Harborview. So, obviously Harborview is the trauma center around here, and if it's a real serious medical issue, they'd be able to handle it. But I've reviewed both contracts, and I just want to emphasize what Kurt said. King County is definitely more expensive.
I was just wondering, being a nurse, it's always interesting to me to try to understand the medical care that someone is offered. So
right.
I appreciate your answers.
I would emphasize as well that we are notified 24 hours a day if someone needs medical services that are not able to be provided by the jail services. So we have a furlough system where I can be contacted 24 hours a day and be notified by a jail that they're in the process of transporting someone out of the jail to get the care that they need at a hospital. Typically that's Highline is the closest one for SCORE. And then obviously, like Dell said, Harborview is right up the hill from the King County Jail in downtown Seattle. So we authorize those furloughs to get the inmates the medical care that they need.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commander. Are there any other questions, Council? Do I hear a motion?
Chair Kochmar, I move the forward proposed agreement to January 19th, 2021 Council consent agenda for approval.
And authorize execution of the contract, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. It's been moved and seconded, Councilmember Russo and Councilmember Sabadasan, to move the proposed agreement and authorize the execution of the contract to the consent agenda for approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Please say
Aye.
aye. Aye. Motion carries. Commander Schwan, last one, jail services contract with Issaquah.
All right. So this is a little bit different than the King County Jail, obviously, a little bit less expensive. However, the policy question is here: should the Federal Way Police Department continue to use the Issaquah Jail, City Jail, as a contract jail facility and increase the number of guaranteed beds to 10? Now, we've had a discussion about the importance of guaranteed beds, and what we've done here is we've gone from 5 guaranteed beds at Issaquah to 10 guaranteed beds is what the request is. What that does for us is, like we said, the guaranteed bed rate guarantees us a lower rate for these beds and a place to make sure that we have somewhere to put people that have to be in custody. Right now, obviously, due to COVID, we're only doing mandatory booking. However, even though we're only doing mandatory booking, we have 16 in custodies out in Issaquah right now. So we are paying for that and whatnot. So I figured we've been the last several months averaging anywhere from 12 to 15 inmates. So the 10-bed guarantee is very easy for us. And the agreement I was able to get with Issaquah was, instead of anything over our guaranteed bed rate being an additional fee or an excess fee above the amount that we're going to be given on a daily basis, they said any rate, if we guaranteed 10, that they would say the same rate would apply no matter how many people we had there. So I was able to lower the rate a little bit as well. If we go over, I'm not paying more money as I would in SCORE or more money as I would in Kent or any of the other facilities. Whereas, like Kent, it jumps all the way up to $180 if we're over our 5-bed guarantee. That's not going to happen in Issaquah. And this is really important for us right now as well, because as I stated in December, Yakima has still not reopened, so we're not able to house any of our inmates over there yet. They have said that they are moving closer and they would let us know when things happen, but as of yet, they are not. So there has been a little bit of a fee increase in Issaquah. I think that has a little bit to do with the fact that they are also providing more services than they were last year. They are providing us video conferencing for court, so we don't have to transport all of our people, which they were not previously. So that's an advantage to us. We can just send a transport officer to the jail, and on an iPad, they can, very similar to Zoom meeting, have conference calls and have their docket taken care of through video conferencing. And then on top of that, they now have 7-day nursing on site, whereas before they were only there, I think, 3 to 4 days a week. Now they are there 7 days a week, checking on the inmates every morning. So there are some increases. That's why the cost has gone up slightly.
Thank you, Commander. Council, any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Council President.
Is the 7-day nursing due to COVID? And will that stop once COVID is contained?
I don't believe it was had anything to do with COVID. In fact, I'm pretty sure they were working on going that direction before COVID even started, and it was just an implementation of the process.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilmember Kraft.
Thank you. I couldn't click on my raised hand on the Zoom fast enough. But Commander Schwan, I did see in the contract that it said that upon request from Issaquah, Federal Way shall at its expense retake any Federal Way inmates within 12 hours after receipt of such request. Has that happened before?
No.
Okay.
Actually, I can say that's not true. There was one time when they felt that there was a subject there that needed additional medical care that they weren't comfortable with.
Okay, and so we would move them to SCORE or another facility?
Actually, it was last year, so we did move them to King County.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to know if there were scenarios where that would happen.
Yeah, typically that hasn't happened, and in fact, I couldn't think of it, and then it did pop in my mind. It was about mid-year when they had someone show up who originally didn't have a problem, but seemed to be getting worse and was taken to the hospital for review. They cleared him at the ER, but Issaquah told us would they be more comfortable with us transporting him to King County. So of course we did that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you all. Seeing no other questions, Councilmember Baruso, do you have a motion?
Yes, Chair Kortchmar. I move the forward proposed agreement to January 19th, 2021 consent agenda for approval. Council agenda, excuse me.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to move the for the proposed agreement to the next consent agenda for approval. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much, Commander.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. So, Ms. Bridgeford, thank you for staying on this entire meeting with us for the next item on the agenda, which is what we've kind of called the donation clearinghouse. And thank you. And I've asked Ms. Bridgeford to put this on the agenda because my former pastor, Father Vandenberg from St. Vincent's, saying that he'd like to have some place where the churches could go that would have some place where they know that they could donate, not necessarily to the city of Federal Way, but just go to a certain, for example, if they want to donate money for electricity, or if they want to donate money for, it would tell them where to go to be able to do that. And so, Sarah, would you take it from there?
I'm happy to talk through the conversation that you and I had and share some ideas. One of the things that we had discussed was the potential of having a list similar to resources, but focusing on the donation side. A lot of our nonprofits, I believe actually most, that if you give a directed donation to a specific purpose, or a donation that can only be used for, a direct rent assistance payment or something to that effect, that nonprofits will comply with that. They will follow the directive of the donor. So it would, if this is something that council wants to pursue, we would be looking at target areas for service. What kinds of services do you want to have focused on this list? We can reach out to nonprofits and see if they would like to be included. I don't know if you have anything else that you wanted to add. I know that there was some talk about having more of a directed donation to an individual. We as a city would not have that capacity. And to my knowledge, I don't know many nonprofits that would be able to take on a new program.
No, I really think the idea was just, most people don't know that. I think the idea was simply that they wanted to donate to their neighbors and they didn't know where to go. And if the city could provide kind of a clearinghouse where they could go to the city website and say, oh, I can pick from here and I can donate to the multi-service center and here's the website, or I can donate to somebody to help them with their electricity, and that would be through Puget Sound Energy, or through, their water through Lake Haven, that kind of an idea. So council, do you have any interest in pursuing this list to be included on our website?
I think that's a great idea, actually.
Thank you, Councilmember Kraft. Are you all okay with that? And we can ask Sarah to go ahead and move forward with that and present it at our next Parks meeting?
Chair Kirschner, just a quick question,
Yeah.
Sarah, again, just a clarification again. So are you talking about listing different items on there, or how is that going to work again? Do you have an idea? Like you talked about electricity and other things like that. Is that how you're going to list things in there, or is it just going to be, I guess I'm just kind of curious as how that's going to work and who maintains that list.
Well, and that is always part of the issue is the maintenance of it. I don't think that this will be something that we will update frequently, if that makes sense. So I think that because of the amount of time that takes, even with resources, they change so frequently that more often than not, we are referring to 211 for that. So something like this, we want to make sure that it's at a high enough level that it's useful for people, it's useful for residents who are in need, and for the agencies that might receive funds. I would recommend doing it, keeping it to more local organizations. I'm picking those that probably have a focus on basic needs at this point, and listing them by the organization with the services that they include, and then the contact for donation. So if we took the multi-service center, we could say that they have, rent assistance, utility assistance, food bank. There are some other things too, obviously, but we can keep it to those areas so that a potential donor might be able to look at that and say, I really have interest in paying somebody's gas bill. This is the organization I'm going to approach. Same with, the caregiving network that, we can list out the services that they're providing and then have that link for their website or whatever contact they want to provide. This obviously will not be every nonprofit. We will, what I would say is my recommendation, I'm just talking through this right now, that would be to use our community services listserv that includes all of our nonprofits that receive funding, that have applied for funding, and then many others who are not currently connected to funding, and put that out to our other nonprofit partners. And then that way it is not us selecting specific nonprofits for inclusion. And they have an opportunity to submit, on this, to be included on this list.
Thank you. I think the idea was that would be a way for the churches to get that out to their community, so that if they're interested, that they can, their parishioners can then go to the list that's on the city website and just say, hey, if you want to donate, these are some different areas to donate, and these are what they provide for those type of citizens. For example, some people may want to provide just food for the homeless, or some people may want to provide, making sure that somebody keeps their water, that their water isn't turned off, or so, really basic things. So if you're all okay, Council President Honda. I'm actually hoping you keep that hand up so you can owe me a Sprite.
Maybe I'll buy you now. I'll buy you a mocha.
Oh, good. We're good.
So is this so that people who want to donate money can have one site where they can see where they could donate money to help people, their neighbors and friends here in Federal Way. And then people who are looking for some help can also go to that site and see potentially where they could call for assistance. Is that what this would be?
I actually think, I'm sorry, Sarah, you go ahead, but I actually think that would be in the reverse, that would be true, because they could look at that and say, oh, that's where I can get help for whatever. As we see on Facebook quite often, people say, where can I donate clothes? Or baby clothes, or, who's taking these things? So anyway, go ahead, Sarah, I'm sorry. I interrupted.
No, I hadn't started. It was not an interruption at all. So I think that they would be two slightly different things. First, resource, we want to, I still believe that we want to be recommending that people contact 211. We can have a starting list as well, but resources change so frequently, and 211, is much better. There are also different contacts for a donor than it is to access service. So we want to be really clear that if we are making this user-friendly for somebody who wants to make a donation, that we would have a different entry point for somebody who is looking to access that service. So we do have one list that's available, but in general, we do recommend people call 211. They can certainly somebody could look at that and get an idea of services. And if they don't see the other list or reference to 211 or the 211, they have a website that you can do your own search and get more real-time data than we can maintain. That is something I'm really mindful of. I don't see this being a new, website. We've talked about the potential of having a different resource website, and that is not something that we are staffed to do. The cost is prohibitive, and 211 has a much more expansive resource already. So not to say no to that, but I think that we would still, maybe partner it with the resource list and the information on 211 and the 211 website. So you click on this tile as a person who's seeking a service, you click on this tile and they bring up the different information.
It's amazing how many people don't even know that 211 exists. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just wanted to clear in my mind what this would be. So thank you.
That would be my recommendation if that works for you.
Thank you.
So is that, Sarah, something that you think you can bring back to our next committee meeting?
I can. Let me look at our calendar. So we have a Human Services Commission meeting on the 25th of this month, which I would like to take this to the commission.
Good.
And
you could do it in March,
I'm thinking it will probably be March if we're reaching out to organizations and trying to have some response that's feasible.
That'd be great.
March is feasible.
That'd be great. Okay. Council, do you have any thing that you want to add to that, or any ideas or any suggestions or?
My only concern is maintaining the website. So hopefully for Sarah or whoever takes that on, that it doesn't become cumbersome and we don't update it and stay current. That would be the only comment I'd like to make.
That's a good point, Councilmember.
May I ask a question or make a recommendation? Would it be something that we could start with a COVID response list? So it's focusing more on those basic needs and kind of see how it goes, what that workload would look like, what kind of response or interest we get from it, so that we can then determine, how expansive we might take that in the future. Would that be an entry point?
Yeah, I think that's good, because I think they're saying that not everybody is going to be receiving the injections until the end of next summer, and they think this will go through the end of the year. So I think, even starting in March, I think that still people are, if this goes on much longer the way it is, we're going to have a lot of people hurting out there. So COVID response list would be very appropriate. Okay. We good?
I agree.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Well, gosh darn it. Susan, you can buy me a mocha anytime.
Okay, you just tell me when.
As soon as we open up and we can go somewhere. Okay.
Many times you do it, the cup gets bigger, right? You go from a
yeah, there we go.
a venti.
Yeah.
It'll be a Trenta.
But you can sit outside at Starbucks, right?
Oh my gosh!
Oh, in the cold.
I tried that last Saturday. It was so cold.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
it was
seen
so
people
cold.
doing that.
I know, but I was sitting outside under a tent at Kent Station at a Duke's Chowder House, just having soup. I couldn't stand it. It was too cold.
I was just there over the weekend too, and I felt like I think they had 2 heaters in the outdoor seating at Duke's, and it was if you weren't right by the heater, it was so uncomfortable.
Yeah, you did. It wasn't worth it. But anyway, so honorary council member Amaya, thank you for joining us today.
She's so cute.
She says,
Yes.
thank you for letting her be here.
Hi, Amaya.
Anytime. All right. Well, thank you all very much. I think that's the end of our agenda. Anybody else have anything else to add? I see John is still on, so I don't think there's anything else. Thank you, Mary, Jerry Lynn, and Sarah for sitting through this entire meeting, and Dell. All right, so the next meeting is scheduled for February the 9th, 2021 at 5 p.m. And if there's nothing else, we will adjourn the meeting at approximately 6:26 p.m. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Okay.
You got to take
Good night,
that little one
everybody.
over
Thank you.
to Mirror Lake.
Oh,
Oh,
look
I
at her.
wanna do
She's
that.
waving.
I was just thinking about the dual swing. That'd be
There you
fun.
go.
Yeah.
Pick a dry day, though. Susan's right. It's
Yeah.
wet over there. So.
It is wet
Okay.
over there.
Okay.
Swim.
See you later. Have a good
Okay.
night, everybody.
I'll take care.
Bye.
Uh-huh.